Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about the Tinto talk, which is, of course, something you would talk about rather than scream about because it's not Tinto Screams, for the 24th of July, which is going to be covering military. Let's just jump right in. Welcome to another Tinto Talks, the Happy Wednesday. Alright, we've accomplished the mission here. I think this is the fourth or fifth Happy Wednesday in a row. I can't remember. We're just losing count. We're taking it for granted. We don't know what we have until it's gone. Tragic when it'll disappear. Where we give you the fun information about the top project secret, Caesar, aka Project Teaser, aka Europa Universalis 5, but definitely not, but definitely. Okay, today we'll talk a little bit more about how the armies work and take a look at how combat works. I'd say the entire unit and combat system is based on the mechanics of the EU series. Now this is kind of a weird sentence that just like looks weird because, okay, we're talking about EU5 and he's saying, oh, it's based on the EU series, as if this isn't part of the EU series. Which is a little strange. Could you imagine if this actually wasn't Europa Universalis 5? What if they make it, like, World Universalis? I think that would be terrible for, like, brand recognition if they, like, change the name. But they could make it something not Europe-based. But we've taken the influences on combat and organization of armies from March the Eagles, ideas of the connection between regiments and pops from Victoria 3. This one leaves me a little scared because, for me, this is a performance red flag, but also, what do I know about performance? Because Victoria 3's 1.7 performance is just way better, and I don't understand why, and it's just better. So, okay. And logistics automation from Imperator to create what we believe is the best of all systems. Ah, yes. Frankenstein. They never asked if they could make the best game ever. Sorry. They never asked if they should make the best game ever. They only asked if they could. Hubris. Alright. I'm now assuming that you all read Tinto Talks number 11, a bold assumption, thinking that we can read, where we talked about the different types of regiments like levies, mercenaries, and regulars, discussed how manpower worked. If you have not read it, please already go to blah 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 before you continue reading this. Alright, we're not going to double read through it because we did read through it because we can read, but it's still a bold assumption. Regiments can be recruited to any location. You have built the infrastructure to allow regiments to be recruited in. So it's going to be important that you do have locations where you allow this, and also they will develop, I can't actually remember all of this, but if I recall correctly, you will develop manpower on a location basis, and you recruit on a location basis, and this kind of makes sense. Levies can be raised in any province capital, so this is based on province, not locations, and mercenaries go in any capital, city, or town. While regular armies go as low as 100 men at the start of the game, levies, which fight much less efficiently, can be organized in up to 1,000 per regiment from the start, allowing you to, not have to tear your hair out when playing China, even having a levy requirements or regiments of 1,500 at the start. Why does it work like this? Well, calling up a levy from Poland and getting 11,000 men, but 110 regiments is a bit too much, but if you can just get 11 regiments, okay, but you can live with it. Delhi, Mamluks, and the other 700 regiments are too much, as usual, Yuan breaks everything. That's not usual. What's usual is Ming breaking everything, but okay, let's continue. Where even with low control and wrong culture, calling up levy and being forced to handle 1,800 plus regiments is a little bit too much for us human beings. This is what the Victoria 3 players deserve. They're like, I want to control every single unit on the map. I'm tired of the front system. Just have them switch from that, no in between, to having to control 1,800 regiments, and then just ask them facetiously which one they think is better. No, obviously you don't want to control 1,800 plus regiments because that's too many. At least 5 too many. But before we go into how combat itself will work, isn't that what we're doing? When two armies that are hostile to each other are present in the same location, there are some things that will need to be explained. Yeah, like, what are you doing here? Why are you in my land? Why don't you just go home? Why are you so ugly? Stuff like this. The thing you do before battle. As in many other games, you have as much control over your armies as you want to. That's not true. Victoria 3 Redditors rise up, and you can move them around and reorganize them to your heart's content. It's in many other games, not all other games. Sorry, apologies. With the granularity of the map, though, we can no longer use days as the smallest tick, and this, to me, is the biggest piece of news. And this is scary to me. This is like stranger danger here. But we have resort to hours as the time tick. The days tick from 8 o'clock to 1900 every day, and the remaining hours are skipped over because they don't exist, representing the fact that armies need to rest and are not always on the move, but sometimes you attack at night. Come on, my guy, where's the realism? But this to me is really scary, that we are now, instead of having 1 tick per day, we are having, was this 11 or 12 ticks a day? Something like this, or 13 ticks a day. Math is hard. You should never do math when recording a video because you'll always flub it. But especially if you're base 12 system and you're trying to calculate this and you're trying to convert this to non-military time and then back to military time like a moron, and you can't just see the difference between 19 and 8 is 11. But continuing on, this is scary to me because I'm scared about performance. I need an adult. I want the game to be able to perform well, and to me, this implies that the game is going to go really slow at some times. And if you have a really crazy amount of regiments and AI having to calculate where it wants to move its regiments and all this type of stuff, and they have to make the decision every hour instead of every day, the AI has to think. This to me is spooky, but I also don't know how game optimization works really, so my degree of confidence in my fear is rather low, and so, which is, how confidence and fear works, so let's continue. Now, some may be still worried about the game. Yeah, that's me. We'll be slower. Yeah, also me. And perform worse. Well, yeah, that's me. When you fight a war and you care about it, you should probably play at a slower speed. That's not me. That ain't me. What's me is making mistakes and then tearing my hair out. But at max speed, the game should be about as fast as EU4 or Imperator. Press X to doubt, but also press X to be wildly unsure, and so I guess we'll just have to see. However, we have something here that we will only tease about today. Isn't this project teaser? Isn't this all teasing? Isn't that all we only get anyways? We will just only tease stuff? Alright. And we will talk about it in future Tinto Talks, i.e. a happy Wednesday, i.e. a powerful objective system that uses the AI components as the AI uses itself. Wait, what? As the AI itself uses. Powerful objective system that uses the same AI components as the AI itself uses. I read the AI uses itself and I was wildly confused, but here we have objectives tab, I'm sure is what he is talking about, where you can set objectives and also the ability to automate the armies. Really, so the thing about the Victoria 3 system that is appealing is the automation and the hands-off implication and idea behind it, although you have to wildly micro it anyways, so I'm uncertain that has been achieved. But if you can set objectives and have your armies move about autonomously, that would be so sick. And you can do that to some degree in Imperator. I don't think the AI for it's very good, and so this will always kind of raise problems, but is it objectively better to give an objective? No, it's subjectively better to give a subject. Okay. An army is a group of regiments that are organized as a single entity. These can be led by a character or may not have traits for being a general, who may or may not have traits for being a general. Sorry, apologies. If they don't have a trait, then they may get one after a large battle. Okay, fair enough. The abilities of character have an impact on military aspects, and each attribute has at least 3 different benefits. This is what we saw with the Explorers, that your ability in different sections actually mattered, and so, just having administration or just having Diplo or just having military was not a huge driver. And we see it again here as general, where having traits in each of the categories is going to be useful. And so if we see this moving forward, this is going to make the decision making a little bit more interesting. I'm not sure which one of these is best, but we do see army maintenance, siege ability, possible frontage, and correct section stance. I'm not sure exactly what correct section sections chance is. It's not stance, it's chance. Okay. Seashells down by the seashore. Possible frontage does seem to be useful, though, because you'll be able to get flanking. So even if someone has more military, they might not be a better general, because maybe a combination of administrative ability and Diplo ability overcomes the worst military score, which is kind of weird to think about, but okay. For diplomatic ability, we have army morale, army initiative, unit food consumption, and then for military ability, we have army movement speed, discipline, which has historically been a really strong modifier, and combat speed. So, okay. We also see here down Sir John's abilities as blank, Admiral, Explorer, and Cabinet member, so we do see a little bit more kind of teased here, but it is always better to have Commander than not. Well, I mean, that's probably not true. The regiments themselves can be deployed to one of 4 parts of an army. So you could customize how your setup is at the start. They can be in the center, they could be on a left flank, they could be on the right flank, or they can be in the reserves. Fantastic. While you can micromanage your army, we will in detail, there will also be ways to auto-balance your armies. Thank God. This is something that I'm super happy about, because I really like it when they give you the ability to micro something, and also they give you the ability to automate it, so you don't tear your hair out. Currently, one of the frustrating things in Victoria 3 is local goods. In order to play them properly, you actually need to micro a ton. Turning on railroads in some places, not turning them on in others, manipulating electricity, building like more power plants, like checking who has power supply, this type of stuff, and it's just all very tedious. I would rather just be able to set up a heuristic and have the thing follow the heuristic. And so this, I think, especially if you can make unit templates, will hopefully be the case. We often refer to one of these 4 parts of as a section of a common word. Okay. So we see the formation. Do we see where they are assigned in this UI? I'm not sure we do, but they do see this balance unit thing where apparently you can move them around. Or is this, okay, actually off to the left, I assume this is on the right, this is in the reserve, this is center, this is reserve, this is left, and okay, you can pile up a bunch of guys on a particular flank or whatever. Also very work in progress UI, but these are the feudal levies of Poland. So how does combat work? There are a lot of similarities here with EU4, definitely not the predecessor to this game, because it's definitely not EU5, except it is, but we only have one type of main phase, but the dice are re-rolled frequently in that game, just as frequently in that game. The battle starts, he seems very careful to use language that doesn't immediately reveal it is EU5, even though it's it's EU5. The battle starts with a bombard phase, where any unit that can bombard, which is basically only artillery units, will be able to fire on the opposing army. The artillery will be able to damage units in the opposing section, so left on left, right on right, etc. If there are no units in the opposing section, it can fire on any sector that is not in the reserves. Okay. A little bit weird that the right would fire on the left before firing on the center, but I don't suppose I care that much. I'm generally more interested in the economy and the military in these games anyways, and so often this is going to be a leak in terms of game knowledge for me, is like, what's the best thing to do militarily, especially Victoria 3, because Victoria 3, you just shouldn't fight close wars in general, and that's where the knowledge is really important, and you should just try and have a bigger stick, and if you have a bigger stick, a lot of what you do doesn't matter too much. Okay. Each section tries to get as many units to engage as maximum frontage allows. This makes sense. Most of the time, every regiment has the same frontage value. They will attack the opposing section until there are no possible units there, and then they will hit enemies in the closest section. It'll be interesting that we have the same frontage value here. So frontage value is going to be a thing for units, and it'll be cool if there's some like strategies that are like, maybe you use certain units because they have a really wide frontage, and you just use them to hold the line, while the other, like, let's say you do that in the center, while the other units on the flank are like your elite units, and they just look to crack down on the flanks and start getting a flanking bonus while you just try and hold center. Something like this. If there is ways to organize an army around the fact that you have different frontage values and try and stack things up in certain places, it'll be maybe interesting. Only engaged regiments will fight out the current round of combat, and a regiment will try to fight another engaged regiment in the opposing section first. If there's none in the opposite section, they can attack any other sections. Again, this is kind of strange to me, where a unit with good flanking can do extra damage. So it seems to be the case that, so in EU4, and pardon me if my EU4 knowledge is outdated here, but the way it works, or you at least used to work, is you would have cavalry, and if they had a certain amount of flanking, that's how far they could just crack down on the center, and then after a certain point, extra cavalry would not really be useful, because they can only flank so far in if you have a wider front than your opponent, and so you can't make use of the flanking bonus that you have a lot of the time, because there's too much, there's not enough there's too much width or not enough width. I don't know the best way to articulate it, but the point is like, if you have a flanking of 3, it didn't make sense to have more than 6 cavalry, because you could only crack down on 3 into the center anyways. Now it seems to be the case that since you can attack anywhere, having flanking is going to be useful on anyone, just as long as you are having a wider a wider combat width than your opponent. As long as you're fielding more troops, flanking is going to be useful. Or if you're fighting on an open plain where there's a ton of combat width available, flanking is going to be useful. So this is a little bit of divergence from, EU4, where you would just like, cavalry was like this weird situation where you would just do this exact number, and the number was like either 2 or 4 a lot of the time. And so if I recall correctly in the combat system, it seems to be this is no longer the case, and maybe if you are expecting to have a wider army and be fighting on open terrain, having a lot of cavalry can be something that is going to be strong. If no opposing unit is engaged, they will damage the morale of all regiments in that section. If no opposing unit is engaged, they will damage. Okay, so we'll do extra morale if there's no one who can oppose it, which of course makes sense, because if you're getting surrounded, that's spooky. Almost as spooky as it being hourly ticks. Man, is that scary. So how does the regiment engage them? Well, at each tick, they roll a dice and then a check against their initiative. If they succeed, then they become engaged. Well, okay, so this means that some are going to be much better at getting engaged quickly than others and avoiding the barrage that you are getting from the bombard that we are getting from the artillery units at the start of the battle. This chance increases for every hour of combat. Hiss, hour, scary. This will also make it so, you want to have every section of your army have units that can engage quickly to allow your heavy hitters to get enough time to engage. Because if you don't have someone engaged, you're likely to rout? Is this the thing? Because you take ticking morale damage, so you have skirmishers that engage quickly and then heavy infantry and cavalry that follow up, or something like this. I'm not sure exactly what this engage quickly and allow heavy hitters enough time means, but that would make some sense to me. I think you would just march slower, no? Well, I guess maybe you want someone to be able to engage to prevent the cannons from bombarding? I don't know. Now, this may or may not always be an option, especially in the early game when your selection of units is rather low. So, apparently you want to mix and match, and maybe this makes sense with the notion of scouting and like this type of thing. Okay. Every regiment, even those in reserves, have a ticking penalty to morale every hour of battle. Okay. A regiment that gets too low morale will break and leave their section until the end of combat and will be in the broken section. Makes sense. If there are enough regiments in a section to cover frontage, there will be a chance for units in reserve to reinforce that section. Okay. Does this mean, I assume this doesn't mean we can stack double units on one unit of width, but okay. However, I assume this means only empty spots. You can be reinforced. However, only enough units for the possible frontage of the battle attempts to reinforce each hour. So having huge doom stacks has no advantage. Okay. I think that this was the case in EU4, but EU4 combat is not my area of expertise, so we'll just continue on. The broken units, if someone has a question about this in the comments, there will maybe be someone with an answer. The broken unit sections are regiments that have been routed from the current battle. They no longer participate at all in the battle, even if their regiments are still part of an army that is engaged. A battle is over when one side has no regiments in their 3 front sections, or the army retreats due to no morale or a manual order to retreat. So this is important to note. If you can't reinforce fast enough, faster than your guys are dying, this will cause you to lose a battle too, even if you have reserves, from the looks of it, and you will have to retreat. We do see a little bit of a UI. Again, all of these are going to be work in progress, where we have the left flank has what looks like 3 battalions or 3 regiments. The center flank has 4, but it has over 400, so we assume some of these are levies, and then also 4 on the right flank. So I assume that these are regulars on the right and the left, and regulars in the center with a little bit of levies would be my guess, and we have none in reserve. Okay, pretty decent army, if I don't say so myself. itself, but not sure it will win against 11,000 Polish levies. Oh, ye of little faith, but okay, you're the expert here. There are some important new attributes to think about for units. Combat speed, we didn't really know what this meant, and this is how quickly they can move up from the reserve sections to fill holes in another section. Okay, so fair enough. And so this is maybe going to be something that you want in particular on your reserve units, just because, so you don't end up taking a lot of morale damage. Because I think they mentioned if there's no one opposing, the enemy unit will start flanking. They will get the bonus from their flanking. They will deal damage to any other unit if they are unopposed in your own front, and that this is probably and they will also do morale damage. So this is probably a substantive enough bonus that you want to prevent this bonus. So even if the unit is inferior, maybe having a unit with more combat speed allows your units that are superior and started on the front of the battle and begin with to do more work and avoid getting flanked. And so maybe it's more essential that you get this flank thing going on, but they could only an amount that is equal to the available fronts can try and reinforce. So I don't think it's the case that you can have, like, if you have 24 spots that can reinforce, you have 24 fast reinforcements and 24 good combat units, and that way you have 48 units and you try and double dip on both the speed and the better unit. I don't think that this is going to be how this works, so you're going to have to pick which one's important to you. Which is interesting because we like making decisions as gamers because decisions are fun, except for these are military decisions, not economic decisions, and then we go back to playing Victoria 3. Okay, frontage, there's a limited amount of regiments that fight in each section. Topology and vegetation can reduce this, so the implication is that it will be the very best on plains or just completely open territory with that are not going to have like ice or something, and some units may require more or less frontage. I do believe that elephants are going to require more frontage, and we will see those in Asia a little bit. At the start of the game, a regular 100 men-sized regiment uses the same frontage as a full 3,600 men in the Napoleonic era. And what's scarier, a regiment the size of 100 men or a man the size of 100 regiments? Comment below. This is done to scale the numbers to feel properly historical while still getting good gameplay. Initiative, how quickly a unit can engage. As soon as combat starts, lighter units tend to have higher initiative. And so this seems to be, well, actually, so if you engage and no one's opposing you, then you will immediately start doing morale damage, right? And you can also start getting your flanking bonus. So maybe it's going to be interesting to think what's important when constructing these units, and I'm sure we can math it out, but the fact that you are trading off one thing for another, because you might have a high initiative unit, but then this unit's also worse at fighting. So when it gets in and it gets a flanking bonus initially, it's going to be great for it. But then once everyone gets engaged, and, like, let's say your light cavalry is now fighting heavy pikemen, which in theory probably counter it, but the point is it's the slower moving unit that's maybe better, then you will lose the benefit. And so the question is can you get the benefit for a long enough period of time for this to be substantive? And also, again, with the reserves, is it better to have fast reserves or good combat reserves? And so these questions will be interesting to answer and think about, especially as we get access to seeing more types of units and this type of thing. But hopefully there won't just be a strictly best way of setting up stuff, which there probably will be, just because that's establishing meta. Just like, I mean, this is just kind of how it goes in these types of games. There's usually just like something that's just mathematically going to be best. Maybe it'll be a rock, paper, scissors type of situation, but I guess we'll see. Stay tuned, we will, because next Happy Wednesday we will be talking about logistics and sieges. So this was kind of our bit that we are seeing about the initial kind of beginning of the military. It does seem like it's going to operate very much like the predecessor. We're not saying it's the predecessor, but we're not saying that it's the predecessor of EU4, just with a little bit of stuff that is going to be, we're picking up some stuff like regiment and pops from Victoria, logistics and automation from Imperator, and organizations of armies from March of the Eagles, this type of stuff. So this all seems, and combat system based on the mechanics of the EU4 series, but we're not saying it's the previous, the previous guys in the series, but we're not saying it either. Anyways, if you enjoyed, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing. And other than that, have a happy Wednesday.